The Wednesday Night Wars are back as AEW have themselves a new Wednesday night rival, and it's a WWE show. AEW Dynamite every Wednesday will now be going head to head with WWE Evolve, and just this past Wednesday we saw the first ever episode of WWE Evolve drop. So I decided I'd check out the first episode of AEW's new Wednesday night rivals, WWE Evolve, and check out what the show was about to figure out what exactly it is and if it could really rival or even overtake AEW Dynamite. Like the video and let's get into it. So WWE Evolve as a show is actually a revival of a previous wrestling brand called Evolve Wrestling. Evolve Wrestling was an independent wrestling company founded in 2010 by Gabe Sapolsky and featured many WWE and even current AEW talents that we see today. They're maybe the first indie promotion I can remember WWE actually working with, as Evolve shows would air on the WWE network and sometimes we'd see wrestlers cross over from NXT to Evolve like we saw with the Street Profits. And in July of 2020 it was announced that WWE had purchased Evolve Wrestling, giving them the full rights to the name and the video library for the WWE network. But we never saw or heard the name Evolve again pretty much since WWE bought it. However, Gabe Sapolsky, the former Evolve booker, has been employed by WWE since 2022, and after the introduction of the WWE ID program, which basically sees indie wrestlers be kind of sponsored by WWE, WWE thought to bring back the Evolve name for a brand new show, WWE Evolve. And WWE Evolve is a show for WWE ID talent to have a gateway through to WWE and showcase themselves and improve their skills. And they'll also mix in certain performance center wrestlers who aren't really appearing in NXT to make for this show every week, so it's definitely going to be interesting. And many people are saying this is a developmental of a developmental, which in a way I see, but also I kind of don't agree with, because of lots of the WWE ID talent have years of experience behind them. Many on this show have plenty of experience, in fact. But yeah, that's all just to say I'm going to be very honest in reviewing this show. I'm not going to hold back any criticisms just because it's a quote developmental of a developmental. Anyway, I think that's enough context on Evolve Wrestling and WWE Evolve as a new show. Let's get into the first episode of Wednesday Night WWE Evolve. We kick off the show showing Shawn Michaels talking to the WWE Evolve roster backstage and says that he will be making the matches for tonight. The main event is announced to be a 6-man tag team match, and the first match is booked right then and there as it's a women's tag team match. We get some words of motivation from Shawn Michaels to the Evolve roster, and right from there, we're into the very first match in WWE Evolve history, as it's that aforementioned women's tag team match. By the way, the show is live from the Performance Center with Peter Rosenberg and Robert Stone on commentary. It's airing live on Tubi and YouTube. The arena setup though is a very basic look. I do like the color scheme and aesthetically it is pleasing in a way, but it definitely leaves much to be desired. It's a very blank slate. Anyway, it's time for the first match in WWE Evolve history. It's Kendall Gray and Carly Bright versus Danny Palmer and Callie Armstrong. The first issue right out the gate is happening during their entrances. I think they should have done some sort of video introduction for each wrestler during the picture-in-picture for their entrances, because I know nothing about these people coming out right now and have no backstory on them other than some little lower thirds, which just aren't enough. Give me a video package introducing themselves to the fans. What sport do they used to compete in? What indie wrestling experience do they have? Anyway, Danny Palmer is just wrestling in regular clothing, and I'm pretty sure I've seen Danny Palmer on NXT TV before, so where's the gear gone? Danny Palmer does have a cool moment landing on her feet from a Rana though, as Callie Armstrong is using her strength throughout the match and she towers over all the other women and she takes control over the match. The wrestling and in-ring work is pretty decent given the standard. There's definitely some awkward moments and pauses, but it was mostly smooth stuff, and obviously it's a taped show, so there's ways to cover that stuff up. Callie hits a nice power slam and is super fired up and says some words to the camera. Danny Palmer goes back in and looks for a standing moonsault, but the knees are up and she tags out immediately as Kendall Gray is hot tagged in for the other team and cleans house before Callie hits a power slam on her. Following that, there's a top rope superplex into a splash from Danny Palmer for a near fall, which was botched as it was broken up late, and there was a bit of an awkward pause from the ref on the 2 count. Palmer hits an enziguri on Kendall, which Kendall just no-sells into a spear for another near fall. Danny Palmer then with a huge corkscrew to the outside onto her own partner and is thrown back into the ring as Kendall gets her in the armbar and she taps. A very chaotic opener. Everyone was definitely trying to get their shit in there, but I absolutely dug that. That was fun. It did feel pretty heatless because the crowd and me, the viewer also watching, have no idea about any of the people in the ring who they are, but they definitely showed out here in the first ever WWE Evolve match. After that, we then get Chewy Martinez, who seems to be almost like the touchline reporter, as he speaks to the winners after the match, and they both get some words in. There's a very decent promo from Kendall Gray here in particular. And we then hear backstage from Brad Baylor, Jackson Drake, and Ricky Smokes, who are one half of the 6-man main event as part of the Heels team. Brad Baylor and Ricky Smokes are already in a team together called Swipe Right, which I think is a great name for a team, to be fair. Baylor says he's matched with your girlfriends, wives, and mums, and we then hear from the other team, Sean Legacy, Cappuccino Jones, and Jack Cartwheel, who is someone I very much recognize and have talked about on this channel in the NWA reviews before. He is a very fun wrestler, and you're about to see that in the main event tonight. Up next though, it's Keanu Carver versus Trill London. We get some backstory on both men with a video package each, which is great. Everyone on the show should have these. Why did the opener not have this, but this match does? Trill London also doesn't have gear and looks like a jobber that just turned up to the show and asked to be on it, and is treated as one in this match, as Keanu Carver just rags him around and hits an awesome looking pounce on him before finishing him off with a massive spine buster for a squash match, which I wasn't expecting to see on the very first episode. I guess this Keanu Carver is someone they want to build up, and I can absolutely see why. We then hear from Luca Crucifino in the VIP section. He kind of says a whole lot of nothing, but kind of teases the idea of the D'Angelo family scouting anyone on this show. And we get some video packages introducing us to other members of the Evolve roster. We hear from Harlem Lewis, Brinley Reese, Layla Diggs, Josh Tonio Jamieson, and Whitney Bergslurper. Okay, I did make those last two names up, but the main event is up next as it's a 6-man tag. Sean Legacy, Cappuccino Jones, and Jack Cartwheel versus Swipe Right and Jackson Drake. The match begins and immediately everyone is trying to get their shit in. We get a standing moonsault from Sean Legacy just seconds into the match, which I thought was hilarious. Jack Cartwheel is of course using his cartwheel based centric offense, which is always fun to watch. Jack Cartwheel is definitely going to be one of my favorite guys from this show, and I'll be very surprised if he isn't on the main NXT roster soon. The heels take control as they work Cappuccino Jones. I'm already noticing a lot of differences between this match and the opener, which I'll discuss in a second. Cappuccino gets the hot tag to Cartwheel, who has a super exciting hot tag sequence. Cartwheels, kicks, flips, and caps off with a triple dive going into the break. The heels slow it down again and take control before Sean Legacy gets his hot tag moment as he starts cleaning house, even hitting a 619 and a backflip inverted DDT. This guy has the most creative wrestler moveset I've ever seen, and I'm all for it. Some more back and forth action as there's some near falls as Cappuccino tags himself in and hits the decaffeinator. Don't even know how to describe the move, but it looked cool as hell. Jones then with a Froggy Brew elbow for a big near fall. They're all trading finishes in the ring as the legal men are finally left alone, with Sean Legacy hitting his finisher on Baylor to get the pin and the win in a super fun main event here. I saw a lot of people echoing the same sentiment I'm about to say here, but why aren't any of these people just on the main NXT roster? These guys, most of them, are better than most of the men's NXT roster without a doubt. I really did enjoy this match. It felt very free, like very free flowing. Everyone was getting their shit in and hitting crazy moves. Definitely felt like there was less producer influence in this match than previous or other WWE matches. I really liked both tag matches on this card. I think this match was definitely smoother though, probably down to more experienced wrestlers, but in a way, the roughness of the women's match made it better to me as it was more unpredictable and formulaic. This main event match was very good, like I said, but it definitely did follow a formula, you know, the heels taking control, slowing things down before the babyface hot tag speed things up. That was very much the formula of this match. But the thing is, I like wrestling when it's rough, a little botchy, because it makes it look more real, makes it seem more real. Following this match though, Callie Armstrong, who was one half of the losers in the opening match, steals one of the commentary headsets as she's lost her head and she's fuming that she lost the opener match as she didn't take the pinfall and wants another match on the show. Sean is then showing talking to Ava backstage after the show as he leaves her with the keys to the kingdom as the show closes with the baby faces celebrating on the ramp. And yeah, that's it. That's how the show closes. This episode of WWE Evolve on YouTube was 47 minutes long, which I absolutely adore. 45 minutes to an hour is the exact sweet spot this show needs to be. I'm very glad they went with that decision. I thought the show was fun. I was pleasantly surprised by the in-ring action. Maybe I shouldn't have been, because all the WWE ID talents are experienced indie wrestlers. There were a couple of times where I didn't know who the heels and the faces were, but maybe that's kind of the idea. Let the fans decide and help the wrestlers kind of find themselves. In general, the show seems pretty freeing, pretty free-flowing. It seems like they have more freedom in matches to try showcase themselves more, and it definitely does get in the way at certain points where wrestlers are all just trying to get their stuff in. So maybe some more producer influence is needed, but that will improve over time. And yeah, I'd like to see more promos and backstage segments and people interacting with each other in the locker room rather than just backstage locker room promos. And yeah, give me more backstory on the wrestlers, some video packages between matches or during entrances. I want to learn more about the people that I'm seeing in the ring on this show. There are definitely people I recognize already, like Jack Cartwheel I obviously recognized on this show, but that's not going to be the same for everyone. In fact, other than Jack Cartwheel, the only two other WWE ID talents that I recognize or knew of before were Kylie Ray and Zayda Steele, who are both people I'm very excited to see on this show, and I'm looking forward to them appearing on this show, hopefully next week or at some point soon. And yeah, the only other thing I think they need to change is the setting. I think it's very bland. I think something more underground and gritty would work better. Almost like a Raw Underground kind of setting, but with, you know, fans in attendance, obviously. But overall, good stuff. In terms of if this show is gonna rival with AEW every Wednesday night, I highly doubt it, to be honest. As I said, this show is being treated as a developmental for a developmental, and regardless, we can't find out what any sort of ratings are because this show isn't on TV. So unfortunately, all you mark-ass nerds don't get to argue and do discourse over the ratings for these shows. To be honest, thank God. But overall, I was very impressed with this WWE Evolve first episode, and I'll definitely